Hey, what's up guys, it's Kelly, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my mythology and classic history collection. If you find yourself enjoying this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out, and if you're new here and would like to see more of me, then please subscribe. I've loved mythology, although I wouldn't have called it that, pretty much from the time that I learned to read. I've always loved folktales, fairy tales, myths and fables. Those were always the stories that I was most drawn to as a child, and it has continued through adolescence into adulthood. But I guess the moment that I actually put a name to this thing that I loved so much, I think, like with most people, was when I read Percy Jackson and I was like, oh, actually, like, this mythology thing, I like it a lot. Up until now, my experiences with mythology have largely been fictional and, you know, reading retellings, reading fictionalized versions of the myths. You could argue that all of the myths are fictional to some extent, but like, you know what I'm saying. And one of my kind of long-term goals is to really educate myself better on mythology by reading some of the original source material. And when talking about mythology, it can be very difficult to find the absolute one original myth because it's so tied into the tradition of oral storytelling. So as these stories were passed down through generations, they've been changed and adapted because they weren't written down until quite a long time after they originated. So there are generally multiple versions of any of the myths that we know of today, but I'm trying to get back to that source material and just trying to read much older iterations of these myths than the modern adaptations of them that we're seeing today. Tied into that, I also have some books here that are actually just history texts, but I'm assuming due to the nature of some of these ancient civilizations and how mythology was so tied into their everyday lives, that those ancient histories will have some aspect of mythology in them as well, so I decided to include them in this video. So full disclosure, I have not read the books that I'm about to show you. This is a long-term project for me. I'm imagining a lot of these are going to be very dense, and I want to educate myself more on classic history and, you know, these classic texts, but it's a long-term project working through these. But I wanted to just show you because I think I have a pretty great collection, and maybe you guys will even have some suggestions on which ones I should start with. I'm going to start off with my Greek collection because it is the most sizable, and also Greek mythology, as we know, is the most popular. First up, we have the one that is actually highest on my TBR, and that is It's All Greek to Me by Charlotte Higgins. This is basically a guide to how Greek history has informed our life, how Greek inventions and Greek mythology and all of this ancient Greek stuff is related to things that we still say, do, use, make today. So one, I think this will just give me a really great overview of ancient Greek history and give me kind of a good starting point because it'll allow me to pinpoint maybe some aspects of Greek history that I'm most interested in, and I can start there. And two, I think it'll just be really interesting seeing the way that, you know, all of these things in ancient times have affected our modern world. And I think that when I then go through and further research all of the things that she mentions in this book, it'll just make for an even more interesting time reading those texts and having a richer understanding of why they're still relevant today. Next, you can't make a video talking about ancient Greece without mentioning Homer. So I have this Penguin Black Classics edition of the Odyssey, and then I have this beautiful Canterbury Classics bind-up of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I actually thought I had the Iliad in this edition somewhere as well, but it's not with the rest of my mythology books, so I don't know. The Odyssey is in here as well, but one, these are different translations, and two, if I do decide that I want to annotate it, I don't think I want to annotate this copy, so I am keeping this one as like a copy to be abused, and then this is a copy to be like enjoyed. But also there are obviously different translations, and different translations can sort of unlock different meanings to you sometimes, so I'm interested to read both translations and kind of see the differences. Can you tell I was a literature student? Then we have two biographies of Alexander the Great. This one is by John Gunther, and this one I can't actually find an author on, but it was brought into my school library in 1925. I graduated in 2014, so I think it was time. I think it was time for them to get rid of this one. That is mad. That is absolutely mental. Oh, this is by Ada Russell, who also wrote Julius Caesar, George Washington, and the Victoria History of the Counties of England. I can't tell you when this was printed because this is before they had proper copyright pages. Like, the copyright page doesn't even say copyright, it just says printed in Great Britain. Yeah, they're biographies of Alexander the Great. That's pretty much all you need to know. Then we have the Age of Conquests, the Greek world from Alexander to Hadrian, which is 336 BC to 138 AD. This is by Angelos Chaniotis, and it's part of a series called The Profile History of the Ancient World. This is one that is from Alan's collection that I've just commandeered for my part of the shelves. And this is what it says on the tin. It is about the conquests from the age of Alexander the Great to the age of the Emperor Hadrian. And then we have Heroes by Stephen Fry. I've heard such excellent things about this trilogy, that they're really great overviews of Greek mythology, and obviously they're written by Stephen Fry, so I'm expecting incredible things, right? I kind of had this mental hump that I wanted to read Mythos before I read Heroes, because I wanted to read them in the order that they were written, but I don't actually think it's necessary. If you have read the whole trilogy, let me know if it's necessary to read them in publication order, but like, they're addressing different things, so I'm kind of thinking I might just jump into Heroes and ignore the fact that I haven't read Mythos yet. So where I think Mythos focused more on the Greek gods, this one focuses on the Age of Heroes. Jason, Heracles, Atalanta, Oedipus. All their stories bound up nicely with Stephen Fry's classic wit. Can't wait to read this one. Then as our bridging book into the next section, we have The Myths of Greece and Rome by H.A. Gerber. It's the Myths of Greece and Rome. That is what it is. The reason that I'm really eager to read this one specifically is because obviously there is a huge amount of overlap between Greek mythology and Roman mythology, because a lot of Roman mythology was inspired by Greek mythology and adapted from Greek mythology, so I think it'll be very interesting to read about them both in one volume where things can easily be compared and contrasted, and I can see the similarities, the differences. I think it's just going to be a real interesting time for me. So moving on to my significantly smaller Roman pile, we have The History of Rome for Beginners by E.S. Schuckberg. This was first published in 1897, and it's a history of Rome for beginners. It's going to be a good starting point, right? Then once I've read that and I'm feeling a little more confident and I want to go a little more in depth, I have The History of Rome by M. Carey, which is another history of Rome. Then because I'm a classy bitch, she's learned, she's a scholar, I have once again got a duplicate, and that is 2 editions of the Aeneid by Virgil. This follows the Trojan prince Aeneas as he escapes after the Trojan War, set sail for Rome, and he and I think his crew, his followers, helped build Roman civilization. Again, an interesting introduction into ancient Roman civilization. So this is a verse translation by Alan Mandelbaum, and this is a prose translation by W.F. Jackson Knight. So, you know, again, I might want to read it in prose just to kind of get the feel for it, and then go back and reread it in verse. Then we have my general pile, which is just like single books from other cultures. I definitely want to diversify my knowledge of mythology. Like I said, I have a pretty decent understanding of Greek and Roman mythology from like the reading that I've already done, whether fictional or like the studying that I did for art, but that was very, very heavily based in Greek and Roman society, and I want to just expand that a bit more and learn some more about mythology from other cultures. I think a great place to start with that is going to be Bulfinch's Complete Mythology by Thomas Bulfinch. This includes The Age of Fable, The Age of Chivalry, and The Legends of Charlemagne, and from what I can tell, this is mythology from around the world throughout history. So it says it covers all traditional stories from classic to medieval times, and includes the much-loved legends from Jason and the Golden Fleece, Prometheus, Pandora and the Trojan War, to King Arthur and his knights, Robin Hood, Edward the Black Prince, and many, many more. So it sounds like actually it's mainly like Greek and English mythology. But yeah, essential for anyone wishing to know the classical background of art, literature and history, and also provides the reader with tremendously exciting tales of the romance and chivalry of a bygone age. Doesn't it sound fantastic? I have opened it up and it looks so dense. It looks so dense, but I want to read it. I want all of this knowledge that is in this book to be in my head. Then we have Kalila and Dimna, Fables of Friendship and Betrayal. This translation was done by Ramsey Wood and is introduced by Doris Lessing. I don't know a huge amount about these, but from their names, I'm guessing that these fables come from a South Asian country. They were written over 2,000 years ago, and I'm really intrigued to see these. I think they are all based in animals, like mainly based in animals, and have informed the folklore of many other cultures and traditions, so I'm really intrigued to see what I can learn from this one. Then we have Stories from Japanese History by Emma Sarepta Yule, which is stories from Japanese history. I don't actually know if these are real historical tales or if they are based in mythology, but either way I think it's going to be a very interesting read because I don't know a lot about Japanese history. And furthermore, if you look at the title page, it does say stories from Japanese history for boys and girls, so it is a children's book. And honestly, at this point, I feel like that is what my brain needs. So excited to pick up this one. And then lastly, we have Between Worlds by Kevin Crossley Holland. He's quite a well-known mythology writer. He has written quite a lot of, I think, like either retellings or books like this. These are folktales of Britain and Ireland, and I am so excited to read this one. I love particularly Irish folklore, and I think this is just going to be such a wonderful, magical read, and I think I'm going to absolutely adore it. So can't wait for when I finally get to this one. So that is my collection of mythology and ancient history books. Also, quick story time on how I acquired a lot of these. Some of these I've bought, some of them are from my husband's book collection, but the bulk of them actually come from my school library. When I was in my final year of high school, my school librarian decided that she wanted to do a clear out of the library. So in like the last week of school when everyone was writing exams, she put out just boxes and boxes and boxes in the library and was like, if you guys want anything, you can take stuff. And I accumulated so many incredible non-fiction books about history and mythology, and that's where the bulk of these come from. So they're very old. I think they're going to be very dry. They're going to be like textbook style reading, but I'm still really interested to get to those at some point in my life. This is a relatively large collection of books. I know it's going to take me a very long time to get through these. I'm excited to have this journey of learning ahead of me. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already. In the description you'll find links to all of my other social media. That's my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, my blog, and my TikTok. You'll also find links to my Ko-fi account, my Redbubble, my online store, my Blackwell's affiliate link, and my Scribd affiliate link, as well as my Amazon storefront if you'd like to support me using any of those. But that's it for me today, and I shall see you all again very soon. Bye!
My life is grounded in a firm routine of coffee, sleep, and work. I am not boring, I just stick to